right. So hopefully this is working on YouTube. I've been testing out the streaming and it seems like it should be working at a pretty good clip here, hopefully. So I'm gonna be working on personal finance app here. It's something I've actually been meaning to build or work on for quite a while. And want to walk through initially kind of how I'm thinking about it, the tools I'm going to use, and maybe get the project set up and structured the way that I like it, hopefully with all of the latest and greatest. We're going to steal some stuff from previous projects, side projects that I worked on, and see if we can't get things going a little quicker here. But a couple things we're going to use. We're going to primarily program in the Kotlin programming language. This is a language that I'm a really big fan of. I've been using it for a number of years, both for Android development and for backend, so server-side development on the JVM. It can be used also for web development. It compiles the JavaScript, and also for native development. There's a new Kotlin multi-platform project that they've been working on to kind of cross-compile code to iOS and Android natively, which at the moment, we're going to start off with building some of the backend first, but then we might get into building both a web front end and a mobile app front end, and we might take a look at Kotlin multi-platform and how that might help us out. We're going to be using Gradle as our build tool for no other reason than this is the one that I'm most familiar with. It's what I've used on tons of projects in the past. Nothing against Maven or any of those. This is just what I've been using for a number of years here. And then Vertex. So Eclipse Vertex is the server framework that we're going to use to build the back end. This is an open source project from Red Hat, actually, and it's kind of akin to using Express on the JVM. I've used it a bunch in previous projects. I've also used Spring. Another one I was actually curious about using is one called Micronaut. This is actually a pretty interesting framework that I've been looking at potentially getting into. And we might actually give this a shot. The one thing I don't know is how this works with GraphQL. That would be kind of interesting to look at, actually. Maybe we can use GraphQL instead, or use Micronaut instead. Try to learn something new on the fly, but we'll probably stick with Vertex for now. Well, maybe actually, maybe we will use this. Let's think about that. Let's see here. So let's go ahead and generate a project. Let's see what this gives us. Kotlin project, Java 11, Gradle. We're going to call the project centerboard. JUnit features. Let's see what we can add here. Can we add GraphQL? Yeah, we can add GraphQL. All right, I think we're going to use Micronaut instead of Vertex, just for fun. Creates a properties configuration file, probably want that. Flyway will definitely want. Hikari for the connection pool, definitely. We'll definitely want JDBI. Actually, should we use Mongo or should we use? No, we're gonna use SQL. SQL JDBI. Let's see, is there anything else we might? Kotlin extension functions, that would be cool. A variety of convenience functions to make using Micronaut Kotlin more user-friendly, that'd be good. Logback we'll want as our logging framework. Let's see here. We will probably add JWT support later, but probably do that after the fact. And I don't know, I think that's probably a good start here. All right, well, I've never used this framework before, but we will give it a shot. I wonder what preview does. Gives you a Docker file, build.gradle file. Holy smokes, a lot of dependencies. That's okay. Features. Okay. Well, this is the first time using this, but let's go ahead and give this a shot here. All right. And this is actually the first time I'm doing a full-blown project on Windows, so this is gonna be kind of fun here. So let's open up here. And so this is going to be our API folder. Move all this stuff in here. And now let's go ahead and open up intellij. Because that's what you use when you're a Java developer, right? All right, let's see how this looks opened up. Invalid Gradle JDK configuration. So this is a brand new computer. So we're gonna have to set everything up. We're gonna have it download a JDK. 14 is the only one I can open up, okay. I guess that's what we're gonna go with. It's actually interesting, there's nothing else you can download. Oh, maybe it's because, yeah, adopt OpenJDK. Let's do 11 because that is the one that the project that we did had. And let's do some other things. Yep, that's all set up. Windows Defender might be impacting your build. Wow, okay. This is, I guess, life on Windows. All right. Sync everything. Yes. Okay. Now let's sync this again. This was the downside of setting up a computer and a project all at the same time, is that you have to do all of these things, but that's okay. We can just go ahead and restart this now, and this will re-download when we're done, or when it restarts here. So I guess we're gonna have to like learn Micronaut as we go, but that's okay. I'm sure we can figure it out. Create your first Micronaut app. I'm gonna assume that all this stuff gets picked up, but if not, we will give it a shot here. Windows, configure automatically. Yes, again. Okay. So I guess while this is working, there's a bunch more things we could talk about, right? So personal finance. So what is this thing gonna be or have? So probably start off couple different things. So I'm naming the project Centerboard, and this is a nod for you sailing folks. Centerboard is big piece of the middle of the boat that keeps you on track, helps you steer, keeps you afloat, and helps you from falling over. So I think that's a interesting name for personal finance, and hopefully helping you stay on track. So we could maybe outline a few things we might start with, right? So get Micronaut up and running with initial schema. And in that initial schema, we might have the concept, we're gonna have concept of accounts. We're gonna have a concept of they're gonna be debits and credits. We might just call them transactions, right? So that's kind of the simple stuff, right? Then we might get into things maybe like stocks. That would be interesting. Or investments, as they call it. And so there's a couple of things that I like to look at, of these couple of things, right? So when I like to look at them, like, I want to look at my balances. I want to look at, my expenses, my net income over, say, 30, 60, and 90 days, right? For my stocks, I might want to look at my dividends. I might want to look at 60, 90, right? I might want to look at my gain or my loss, things like that. So, all right, so it looks like it's done, and it looks like it's figured this out. So let's go ahead and just run this. Make sure this runs okay. I assume it will because it's the demo application. But then we'll go ahead and try and add an endpoint and see how this looks. No, it did not. Oh, yeah, allow access because this is Windows. Let's run it again. Okay. It looks like it started up. Localhost 8080, page not found. Yeah, so it looks like it did start up. Failed to create Windows ANSI output stream, falling back to the default stream. Okay. We'll probably ignore that for now. All right, so let's go back here and let's do the good old hello world here. And I know people tend to like this idea of controllers and things like that. I typically like to name things a bit closer to what they really are, which is kind of an endpoint. So we're gonna do the hello endpoint. Kotlin file, can bring this in. Media type, import all these. Oops. Oh, keyboard shortcuts are going to be fun. There we go. Import all this. So the root is going to say hello from centerboard. Let's run that again. I think this was 8080, right? Okay, nothing there. First needed controller. Class is defined with the controller annotation, get annotation, Micronaut. Yep, that's all good. Definitely don't need to write a test yet. But we don't see our page. Why not? That's no fun. Okay, try this again. Nothing, huh? Alrighty. I'm going to assume annotation processing has been set up, but let's just go ahead and check that. I don't think the thing would run without it. Oh, it's not. Okay. Let's go ahead and give that a shot. Nope, still nothing. Okay. Language Kotlin, annotation processors, Gradle, test classes. As of this writing, IntelliJ's built-in compiler does not directly support kapt and annotation processing. You must instead configure IntelliJ to run as a build step. Why don't I believe that? Yeah, I don't believe this. Micronaut classes will be generated at compilation time. All right, maybe this is actually true. Okay. Select run Gradle task. Centerboard API task is going to be test. Add the classes tasks. Oh. Classes. Okay. All right. Nothing. See, this is why software these days. Read the Micronaut Kotlin section to learn more. Run Gradle task as a build step, then add the classes task to execute. Now whenever you run, will be generated at compilation time. To enable is there something in here? No. Coroutine support, we'll definitely get there. Okay, so oh, duh. It's because this is on. Hello. My goodness. Okay. Cool. All right. I'm really smart. This is just late at night. It's the first time we've used this. This is just how it goes, right? All right. Well, we've got our endpoint up and running, so that's cool. Okay. So now I think we can go ahead and get started. Ooh, there's a lot in here. Okay. Well, that works. So that's good. So we have our hello controller. All right, now first things first. Let's take a look at what else we've got in here. We've got our Gradle file, Gradle properties, a Docker file, it looks like, for running this jar, Micronaut CLI, a whole bunch of stuff in here. All right. Well, let's talk just real briefly about, I guess, the domain stuff that we're going to have. So let's start to sketch some of this out. So we're going to have an accounts package and accounts file. And in here, right, let's just start scaffolding out some stuff. So we're going to have an account that's going to have an ID of some sort. It's going to have a name. Probably have some sort of description as well. And that'll be that. Not sure if we need to keep track of like the bank or the institution that something came from. I think we'll probably just ignore that for now. But we're definitely gonna want this idea of accounts. We're then gonna have an idea of how we want to store transactions. And this is kind of interesting. I wonder how we might store this, because you know there's this concept of debits and credits. So we will, so let's do that. So we're gonna have the concept transactions, and in here we're gonna have this idea of a transaction. It too is gonna have an ID, of course. It's probably gonna have a title of what it is. It's likely gonna have some sort of description. There's gonna be a value, which is gonna be a big decimal. And this could essentially be positive or negative, right? So if you're taking money in or out, right, it'll be negative or positive. It probably needs to be tied to or connected to a given account, right? Because each transaction is going to have to belong to a given account. Let's take a look. Let's take a look at like mint.com's website and see what they've got in here. I haven't used Mint in a while, but I'm sure it has some things in here, right? Yeah, so we want this idea of you know, accounts, balances, and the accounts are going to be essentially like a roll-up, or the balances, right, are going to be a roll-up of all of the transactions. Although I guess we could have someone manually set it if they wanted to, but I think it's better if it runs off of the transactions. That's why it's more accurate. You can't cheat the system, if you will. Okay, so yeah, so we're on the right track here. There's probably gonna be like a categorization. Maybe we won't get into that yet, right? But we'll probably do that later on. So what else might we want? In the future, we'll probably want a way to set up some sort of budget or budgets. Just thought of that. Okay. All right, so now let's take a quick look at Micronaut GraphQL. Let's see what we have to do to get that started. Why is my mouse so terrible? Task Manager. Performance seems to be just fine, okay. All right. Create a single microservices endpoint with GraphQL and Kotlin. Tell me how easy it is. It's already there. Yep, that's the schema. All that. Okay. All right, cool. So let's create the schema. Schema.graphqls, yeah. Okay. So we actually probably could have done this first, right? But let's do this. So we're gonna have a type account. We can look at what we had here and just match it. ID, this is going to be ID in that world. Name, string. It's got to have an ID. It's got to have a string. These are, for those of you who haven't used GraphQL, these are nullability annotations, so you're going to have that. The description. And I typically always like to do this and just pass empty. So the description, that could probably have a default parameter, but the name and ID are always going to be required. So then we're going to have a type transaction, ID, title, string. This is going to be, oh, does this not, yeah, that doesn't have, yeah, I don't think this has float string. Yeah, does GraphQL have, no, it doesn't, right? GraphQL, I don't think it has a money type. Ints for monetary values. Yeah, you don't want to use int. Dun dun dun. Decimal scalar. Number formats. Oh, decimal, okay. No, wait, what did they custom define this? Decimal. Signed, yeah, okay, they just defined this as scalar. Okay. Okay. Dun dun dun. Scalars. So far, we only talked about like strings of scalar types. Yeah, okay, all right, so we're just gonna do this, right? And then this can be decimal. And I think this takes documentation. This will always to a string in decimal formats. Okay. All right. I think that's probably where we're gonna stop for now. But yeah, so we got our project up and running. We switched web frameworks, which is always exciting. But I'm kind of eager to learn about this, about Micronaut. So I look forward to this. So that's about I think all we're going to do tonight. Keep working on this, hopefully a couple times a week. And if you want to learn some Kotlin, learn some GraphQL, maybe learn a little about kind of personal finance and money, stick around, and we will talk to you later.